Keir Starmer might be in some legal trouble in an interesting twist as the Telegraph reports a letter from Liz Truss's lawyers arguing that Keir Starmer's statements about her quote-unquote crashing the economy are defamatory in nature. So this ought to be interesting. I'll talk a little bit about defamation in this video and why this might be and why, more generally, you may or may not wish to bring a claim, particularly in defamation. Very good reasons for that. So first of all, it's your second video today, so welcome back. I'm Daniel Shen-Smith, a barrister of England and Wales. I enjoy helping you to understand law, politics, news, current events, and how they all are intertwined, and hopefully break them down in a way that you can really understand. So thank you all, first of all, once again, for 700,000 subscribers. I am truly grateful. I really feel well on the way to 1 million subscribers, helping 1 million people understand law. That's my mission now. Always was, since I started this channel. So this is really interesting. Keir Starmer may now have to face lawyers himself. That is, unless he complies with this cease and desist. Now, there's an interesting question here. I'm going to pose this very broad topic to my learned friend Alan Robertshaw and ask him to come and do some video on it as well on his channel, Art of Law. I'll link that below because he'll probably say, I think, that this is not likely to develop any further. But we'll wait to see what he's got to say. He's a specialist in media and defamation, and I've worked a little bit in this area as well. So let's have a look at this. So the Telegraph says Liz Truss has sent a cease and desist letter, I'll link this article below, to Keir Starmer, demanding that he stops claiming that she crashed the economy. It says in the letter, a copy of which has been seen by the Telegraph, lawyers acting for former Prime Minister Liz Truss argue that these statements are false and defamatory. Now, these were leading up to the election, and they say here, it says, of particular concern are the false and defamatory public statements you made about our client in the lead up to the UK general election from late May 2024, at a time when you knew or ought to have known that those statements were false and the statements were likely to materially impact public opinion of our client while she was standing as parliamentary candidate for the Conservative Party in South-West Norfolk. Now, of course, any statement that is likely to cause serious harm to the reputation of somebody is a defamatory statement. Now, the defences, standard defences, would be the truth, honest opinion, or publication of matters of public interest, by way of example. Now, at first blush, some people might say, well, that was true, wasn't it? But actually, it's not really. Not only is there no actual, certainly not a statutory definition, but there's no real solid core definition of crashing the economy. There's a lot more to what happened at that time with Liz Truss's mini budget with Kwasi Kwarteng, which I may discuss the financial aspects of on my other channel, Daniel Shen-Smith, which I'll link below. If you're eager to understand money and wealth building, do go over there and subscribe there as well. Hopefully I'll break those things down in as much clarity. And before I get the comment bandits coming in saying, stay in your lane, mates, don't talk about finance, well, I'm financially independent, financially free, and I am a qualified mortgage advisor, so I know a little something about mortgages. I've been qualified for many, many years now. I don't do that anymore, but I certainly study it. I certainly understand it. So rest assured, I can give you some insight to this as well. Check it out. My other channel linked in the description below. So actually, there's no definition of crashing the economy. And did she crash the economy? In my view, no. I mean, there was a market reaction to what happened in her mini budget. Long story short, I won't bore you with it on here. I'll discuss that on my other channel. But long story short, what she did was quite drastic. There was quite a drastic market reaction. It did have quite a significant effect because it was uncosted elements that she was going to drastically make cuts and changes. And so there was a drastic change. But if you read around the subject a little bit, there are a lot of arguments from specialists that say, well, actually, the changes made by the Bank of England, for example, the day before the budget was presented to Parliament, the Bank of England had announced that it was a first stage of quantitative tightening. Again, I'll explain that on my other channel. And as a result of that, it said that it was going to sell 80 billion worth, with a B, of government bonds into the financial markets in the following year. None of the proceeds were going to use fund government spending, and instead it would drain the private sector of funds and supposedly reduce the risk of inflation. Inflation, I think, at the time was about 10%. And so all of this culminated and had a massive market reaction. Now, at the time, it didn't affect interest rates and mortgage rates. And so, yes, it had a direct effect, arguably had a direct effect on mortgage rates at the time. But as a qualified mortgage professional, former professional, I think that's how I describe myself. I've been qualified. You don't lose the qualification, but I've not practiced in mortgages for many, many years, but I do understand it. So as someone who was a qualified and practicing mortgage advisor at some stage, I can tell you from my experience and from my experience as a lawyer that interest rates today are not a direct result of what happened then, a couple of years ago. There's an argument that there's an effect on it, but you cannot really blame today's rates on that solely. And certainly with the way that it was described as crashing the economy, I don't fully agree with that. So coming back to the point here, one of the potential defenses of the truth is going to be, if there were a case, is going to be a very, very difficult one to argue, given that under Rachel Reeves now, the borrowing is at the highest rate since 2008. And many people would probably argue that Rachel Reeves has done as much damage to the economy with her budget as anything else. So that's going to be a very difficult one to prove. Honest opinion? Well, honest opinion, really, when you drill into honest opinion, it might be an honest opinion defense for a defamation claim to show that these conditions are met. First of all, it has to be clear that it's a statement of opinion as against a statement of fact. Let's say instead of economy, replaced it with car. He crashed the car. If he didn't crash the car, then it's false. It can't be an opinion. If there were two people driving and they crashed into each other, and I asked you, who do you think was responsible? And you said, I think it was that guy that was responsible. Then that's your opinion of who it was that was responsible. If I'm asking for your opinion, so that's subtly different. But for that reason, courts are generally not interested in your opinion. For example, if there were three people fighting in the street and they were charged with affray, which is a form of public order, it's a public order offence, the court's not going to ask you, as in any of the lawyers are not going to ask you, in your opinion, which one started it. That's just not going to happen. The court will be interested in, well, who was there first? Who threw the first punch? Or who threw the first insult, argument, threat, whatever? Who did what first and when and how and etc. That's what they're going to ask you. Who did this? What did you see? What did you factually see happen? So there's a stark difference between fact and opinion. So if Keir Starmer has said she crashed the economy, that's a statement of fact. And he would have to prove that it was true, or even if it comes to opinion, it has to be clear that it was his opinion. But there's also a second condition, and the condition is you have to give some kind of basis, either generally or specifically. What is the basis of your opinion? So, for example, if you wanted to say, in my opinion, you shouldn't trust that guy because he's a fraudster. Now, assuming that this guy that I'm talking about has no criminal record, no previous history, has done nothing wrong whatsoever, but you just say, in your opinion, he's untrustworthy and he's a fraudster, then that isn't giving any basis. It's not indicating any basis upon which you formed your opinion. So it would fall down on that second condition here. On the other hand, let's say he was convicted. Let's say he's been convicted of fraud. Let's say you were writing about, let's say, a mortgage fraudster. If you're writing about a mortgage fraudster and you said, well, in my opinion, they are untrustworthy because they've been convicted of mortgage fraud, for example, then you've given your opinion and you've given the basis of your opinion, and the basis is that they've been convicted of a fraud offence. So you've got some reasoning behind your opinion that they were untrustworthy. But then there's a third condition, and that is, could an honest person have held that opinion that's been expressed on the basis of either any fact which existed at the time the statement was complained of was published, or anything asserted to be a fact in a privileged statement published before the statement complained of. And such a privileged statement is further down here. And that is a privileged statement if the person responsible for the publication would have one or more of the following defences if an action for defamation were brought in respect of it. That is either that it's a statement of public interest, a peer-reviewed statement, scientific academic journal, or reports of court proceedings protected by absolute privilege, or another defence under qualified privilege. And so the third requirement is that an honest person could have held that opinion based on any of those facts. And so all of those brought together, and you have an assessment then as to whether your defence of honest opinion is possible. As to a matter of public interest, another statutory defence, it might be a defence of a matter of public interest publication if someone sues you for defamation. And that's only a defence if the statement complained of was or will form part of a statement on a matter of public interest, and the defendant reasonably believed that publishing it was in the public interest. And as we've discussed before, something being in the public interest is not necessarily what the public are interested in. It is a matter of public interest. So in other words, something that everybody really should know because it is important to the public at large, not just that they're interested in it. So overall, I would think that it would be very difficult to prove that this was the truth because there's no statutory definition and arguably wasn't true. There was a lot of turmoil at the time, but it's going to be difficult to prove that that was the truth, that she crashed the economy. As to honest opinion, well, it's not clear that any time that was said that it was an opinion, much less any time that it was said that there was an indication of the basis upon which it was based, whether in general or specific terms, which is the second condition. And thirdly, would an honest person have held that opinion based on those facts? You may argue that that's possible, but on any one of those grounds, this defence may struggle. And as to publication of public interest defence, well, she's not the PM anymore. If Keir Starmer was making those statements in the run-up to the election and is still making them, it's arguable, even if it were true or whatever, that it's not in the public interest to be making those statements anymore. So there's a lot of difficulties with this, but I suspect that it probably won't go any further. I suspect it's a shot across the bow to say, just stop saying this or we may take this further, but we'll have to wait and see. But what we do have is some rather bizarre commentary on this, because he does, I mean, quite rightly, he makes an argument between free speech and complaints about what people say. But I'll explain why that's an issue in just a moment. But listen to what he says.
Economy. All the people that are always wanging on about free speech and how important it is and how Elon Musk's myriad lies is somehow proof that free speech, and then when actual free speech is exercised, or when they find themselves on the end of some relatively mild criticism, largely evidence-based.
Right, so there, he's conflating free speech with, obviously, claims in defamation. Free speech, yes, but if you make something which is a defamatory statement, for example, if someone is, let's say someone's accused of a crime, but actually they're cleared, but then you say that they are guilty of that crime, your statement will then be held to be defamatory. So on the one hand, yes, you have free speech, you have the freedom of expression, but that doesn't say you can't get sued for your statements. So this, with respect, is confusing the fact that when you exercise free speech, you can also be sued for what you say. So say what you wish, of course. Be mindful that what you say may be defamatory and may result in legal action. So hopefully that is a whistle-stop overview of what's going on there. Brief disclaimer, I obviously haven't seen the letter. I haven't seen all of the statements complained of and such like, because I haven't seen the letter. I haven't seen everything that's been complained of. All I know is that this is a generic complaint that Keir Starmer is saying she crashed the economy, and lawyers have sent this cease and desist to say, please stop it. This is false and defamatory, and we'd like you to stop that. So I will hand over the suggestion to my learned friend Alan Robertshaw to put some thought into this as well. I'll link Al in the description below. Go and subscribe so that you're ready for when that video comes out. Let me know your thoughts, comments if you were hit by mortgage rates changes and everything else. Do check out my other channel, Daniel Shansmith, link below. And as always, thank you for watching.